What is paid traffic, and how do you use paid traffic and social media, paid social media, for your practice? So paid traffic, what is paid traffic? A lot of clinics have experience with paid traffic. I think it's most with Google Ads. But paid traffic is really any place that you go and pay money to get people to visit your website. So what do I mean by that? We like to think of paid traffic as sort of going to a traffic store. If I want to get some traffic, I want to send people to my website, I can choose to buy that traffic from a number of different sources. Most people stop short and sort of just go to Google and maybe Facebook now. A lot more clinics are starting to get used to that idea of Facebook. But there are a lot of different options that you can use to buy traffic. There's YouTube, there's Instagram, in some cases Twitter, not so much used in healthcare practices, but certainly there's new emerging socials all the time that are coming online where you can go and buy traffic from them. So traffic is something that you need to buy, but there's a big caveat. You need to buy only the traffic that contains the users or the patients, potential patients that you actually want to talk to. And so that's why the majority of practices use Google Ads and they use Facebook. But paid traffic is really something that you want to approach very cautiously, I would say. You should go and do it, but you should be very cautious about it because you can waste a lot of money. And in our experience, most practices have had a negative experience in the past at some point where they've put a lot of money month upon month paying both a media agency and also direct to Facebook and Google and buying traffic and not really seeing a return on investment, or not really even knowing that they should get a return on investment and what that return on investment should be. So really what you want to do with paid traffic is you want to be aware of some common metrics. You want to be aware of how much am I paying to get a lead and what is a lead. So even starting with the definition of the lead that you're trying to generate. So with our clinics that we work with, we're always looking to establish different types of leads and assign a value to each one of those leads. So probably the most common type of lead, the one that most clinics focus on, is the lead where you're getting somebody to book in a consult. If they book in themselves, even better. So let's start with that. So having somebody come online and book through something like an online booking system like a Calendly. So coming and booking a lead via Calendly is one really good lead that you want to get out of paid traffic. And then there's other things like getting somebody to call a number that's trackable specifically to your paid traffic. You can get a return on investment figure for that. Driving somebody to your website so that you actually get a lead generated through some kind of a lead magnet, something where you've got a guide or something where you basically give somebody of value in exchange for their email. So these are all things that you want to measure upon, at the end of every month when you do a paid traffic campaign. So at the end of the day, this is what we call top of the funnel awareness. So paid traffic is really just getting people aware that you exist and driving people to your site. That's all it does for you. It basically hands the baton from people not knowing you over to your website, and then it says, over to you, website, do your job. That's another area where clinics fail, because most clinics are not set up to be a conversion engine. So they send that traffic to their website and then their website lets them down. So another function that paid traffic really needs to consider is not only driving a whole bunch of leads, we liken it to fishes into a net. You can't send a bunch of fishes to a net if the net has holes in it. So another function that your paid traffic team must consider is that when those traffic people, if they're going on Instagram, they click on an ad, they come across your website, where are they landing? So you've probably heard the term landing page, and that is a key component of a comprehensive paid traffic system. You need to have somewhere to send somebody, and you need to have a landing page specific to not only Google, not only Facebook, but to each ad group within your campaign. So you need to have a very tightly structured campaign where you've set up, for example, you might have a cataract campaign, you might have a LASIK campaign, you might have a PRK campaign, and then within those campaigns, every single one of those campaigns can be broken down into specific ad groups that you can then tightly target with a specific landing page, so that if somebody looks up PRK cost, you can send them to a specific page all about PRK and cost. Now, do you have to do that? No. Does it give you a higher conversion rate? Yes. Does it give you a lower cost per lead? Yes. So that's why we do these types of things. So there's a number of different factors that you really want to be aware of when you're driving traffic for paid traffic. And that's why we've created checklists for our clients. And sometimes for our blogs, we will send out checklists so that you can figure out what it is that you most need to do to make sure you're getting the maximum return from your paid traffic support.
So a lot of the surgeons that I work with on a regular basis, they might have quite a bit of hesitancy around spending their money on paid traffic sources. And I understand that, and I appreciate why they might have that kind of hesitancy. Because many surgeons have gone to the paid traffic store without the necessary ingredients to generate success. So what are the necessary ingredients to generate success? Well, first of all, you need to have a documented journey. You need to have a really clear understanding of where you want to attract people at what stage of the funnel to your paid traffic campaign, and then to your website, and be able to provide them with a landing page that satisfies their interests and needs at that stage of the funnel. So I'll give you an example. If you're just trying to get awareness, then that's a great place to use paid traffic. It's a great tool for that. For that, we often advise our clients to focus on very, very popular keyword phrases like laser eye surgery. That's top of the funnel content, right? Because you're gonna get a lot of people who are gonna be very aware of that term. However, lower down the funnel, people might be more familiar with things like smile. And smile might be, for example, a term that you might use and direct people to lower funnel content. And what I mean by that is people who already know a little bit about laser eye surgery are now at the stage where they're evaluating options, and they're now at the stage where they're deciding, does it make sense to go with smile now that I've already had a consultation? Because you don't just use paid traffic for awareness, you use it also to supplement the messaging that you need to provide people throughout the whole course of the funnel, because they might have gone elsewhere and learned about laser eye surgery as well, and now are coming to you because all of a sudden they realized through their research that smile is an option, as an example. So this applies to all sorts of different terms and funnel stages. So the documented journey is important. And the other thing you must have is a set of metrics, actionable metrics. Metrics are things that you can measure against. And if you don't have metrics in place before you endeavor on a paid traffic campaign, then you're not going to be able to know whether or not you're being successful. So you may be undershooting what you're aiming for, or you may be overshooting what you're aiming for. And in both cases, you might not know what's realistic, what makes sense. One of the things that our clients love about us is the fact that we have real actionable metrics established for many, many different clients in refractive surgery everywhere in the world. So when it comes to Australia, we've got folks there who are doing and running paid traffic campaigns where we can identify benchmarks and actionable metrics that we can improve their campaigns and the return on investment that they generate from those campaigns. We've got clients in the United States who we also can compare against. We've got clients all over Europe. And so with that widespread international perspective, we're able to determine what works in different markets for paid traffic, and also what actionable metrics we should be aiming towards. What are the benchmarks that allow us to improve all of our clients' performance pretty much across the board when it comes to paid traffic. So when it comes to paid traffic, one of the most important things you need to do is you need to focus your efforts, and you need to scale appropriately. So one of the things that we know is that 90% of all paid traffic happens on 4 main platforms. It happens on Google Ads, it happens on Facebook, it happens on Instagram, and it happens on YouTube. So those are the 4 main platforms that clients can use. So this reminds me of a story really of how a particular client in Australia really wanted to ramp up quickly. They wanted to dominate their marketplace. That was their number one aim. And their goal was to get as much visibility as possible, as quickly as possible. And the answer for that, quite honestly, is typically go to the traffic store and buy paid traffic. So the first approach was really necessarily to go to Google Ads first. Why Google Ads? Well, Google Ads is a place where people are going and they're trying to, they know what they want. They're looking for things. They're raising their hand and saying, I'm interested in this particular thing. So what happens is when they go to Google and when they type something in, that paid traffic ad typically will, well, almost always will be above any kind of organic search result. And if you want to be really attracting the vast majority of the share of attention, then you got to be on 1, 2, at minimum, potentially 3. There's different reasons to be in these different locations, and we can explain that in a conversation. But one of the things that we aimed to do first of all with this client in Australia was to maximize his paid search budget to the point where we were able to maximize the budget so that he wasn't leaving any money on the table, but at the same time managed to keep the cost per lead as low as possible while raising it reasonably to the point where he was happy with scaling that Google Ads campaign to the point where we could really go no further. So what happens then? Well, my client comes to me and says, what else can we do, Rod? What else? How else can we expand our market? And so the next step, obviously, would be to go elsewhere down funnel and see if we can find other ways to generate traffic among people who may not be necessarily raising their hands. So that brings out Facebook and Instagram. So Facebook and Instagram are great places to go for people who might not be necessarily thinking about your product at the moment, but you may want to identify through demographics or through lifestyle factors, glasses wearers, for example, people in certain age groups, people in certain locations. You can be very, very targeted on these platforms and attempt to expand your awareness by now going at people who aren't already looking for your product, but maybe just happen to have an interest in your product due to their demographics, and you now interrupt them as they're proceeding through the consumption of Facebook and Instagram. Similar things apply to YouTube, so you can be very, very focused with your demographic approach and then identify who you're trying to attract and expand your market in that way. So again, tools and tactics vary, but you got to use them judiciously, and you always have to have actionable metrics in order to understand how you're doing on these and how you're setting your expectations appropriately for people who are really high in the funnel and people who are low in the funnel.
Paid traffic is something that you need to approach with the target in mind. So there's a number of different things that you can do in terms of the different types of people that you can reach in each part of your funnel. Most people just look at cold traffic. There's cold traffic, warm traffic, and hot traffic. So if you look at different parts of your funnel, people that don't know you are cold. If you think about a relationship, if you don't know somebody, there's no warmth there. They don't know you. They're not going to invest any time in you. They're not going to spend more than a passing glance unless you're very, very interesting. Cold traffic is something where you're putting out an ad in market, trying to look at the passersby, trying to attract them in. That's usually where most clinics stop. But with warm traffic, once you've actually had somebody come to your website, 95% of people that come to a website actually leave and they never come back. So that's a lost market. Those are people that have raised their hand and said, you know what, I have an interest in, let's just say laser eye surgery or LASIK or cataracts or whatever it is that they've searched, and they've come and they found something lacking, or they're busy, more like it, at the moment, and they've just taken off. And so 95% of those people are still out there, and they might do a search again, and they probably will, but they've already been exposed to your brand, so that now they become a little bit warm. And this is a really big opportunity that a lot of clinics miss. So there's a number of things that you can do with this traffic, but a lot of people are starting to become familiar with the term remarketing, and that's what this is. Remarketing is basically marketing again, remarketing to people who have already been exposed to your message or your brand in some way. And there's a number of ways you can do this, but one of the best ways that we've seen with our clients is making sure that you specifically target people that have either been to your website as a whole, or even more specifically, been to a specific landing page for, say, LASIK or cataracts. And we can gather these people up in audiences and actually specifically market to them again. And we see a dramatic return on investment. We're starting to do YouTube remarketing and Facebook remarketing and Instagram remarketing, and we can actually retarget these people and YouTube as well, and make sure that we get in front of them again and again and again, and offer them different things at different parts of their buying cycle. And I think that that's the key thing here, is that when people are ready, that's when they would like to see their message. That's when that's when they appreciate your message. And so by getting up in front of them again at a moment when they've already been exposed to your brand, and then are ready to take the next step, the small next little step in their buying journey, that can really reap a lot of rewards with your paid traffic strategy.
Back when you were in school, you had a relatively easy way to ascertain where you stacked up against your peers and colleagues. However, now that you're in a practice setting, it's a little bit tougher to know where you stack up, not only against your ideal, but also against your peers and your colleagues. And that's why we created the Premium Practice Score. And if you'd like to take that test, if you'd like to see where you stand up against the best in the world, or perhaps the best for yourself, you're able now to take that and then see where you stack up.